Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio. You're here with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast in Australia. Well, it's a very exciting week here on the Gold Coast. Tomorrow night, or officially tonight here Australian time, the Commonwealth Games opens for the next 11, 12 days of fun, frivolity, sportsmanship, and probably a lot of parties and a lot of good times, and hopefully some medals won throughout the games for all the teams that are participating. So we'd like to wish them all very much great success, whatever that may be. And it's not always about winning a medal. It's about participating in good sportsmanship and having fun and making some new friends. So we wish them all well, all the people that are competing in the games here in the next 11 to 12 days. It's with a heavy heart that I want to ask everybody to hold hands and to say a little prayer and have a little thought for the news that's just come through in the last couple of hours about the shooting at YouTube in the US of A. I don't know where these things are going to stop. I wish we could have a show where we could sort of say that there was nobody that was actually hurt this week. That'd be a marvellous thing. So we can only hope that we're getting close to the end of all these terrible tragedies, and we've got to give some thought to those people that their lives are never going to be the same now with everybody that's been involved in that. It's a terrible, terrible time. Anyway, on to more positive things. We're celebrating Secrets of Tarot's actual first birthday here on the show today. It was actually launched on April Fool's Day in 2017, so I'm really proud to say this is the sister set to Simply Tarot, which was launched about 14 years ago now. So for those of you that don't know much about tarot, today we're going to focus on tarot as the major theme because it's Secrets of Tarot's first birthday. If I open up the box just quickly, you'll see inside there's a book and a set of Secrets of Tarot cards. And how do they differ, I hear you ask, from the Simply Tarot cards? Well, the distinct difference is the Simply Tarot cards are much more vivid and they have a gold back. And our card of the week, let's focus on that now. Our Simply Tarot card of the week is Knight of Cups. Now, this is a young man up to the age of 25, or the secondary meaning, which is quite often the case in tarot, where we focus on the secondary meaning on the card, which is needing to have more confidence in yourself. Now, this can be in any area of your life. It goes right across the board. So for most of us, we do lack confidence. We might put on a brave face and sort of try and show the world our very happy, very jovial, very self-confident face. But underneath that, we're usually sort of wrestling and struggling with our own inhibitions, our own little voices saying, you really can't do that. Do you really think you're any good at it? Put your ego away. Do this, do that. So I think it's a very apt and a very appropriate card for this week as we come out of the blue full moon in Libra, which sort of really rocketed and shocked everybody and caused a few upsets over the Easter long weekend all around the world. I know that my inbox was full with people saying, what on earth is happening? I know it's a blue moon, but did it have to affect me in this way? Well, it's part of the reason was the blue moon, but it was also Uranus going through Aries, and we had 4 planets in Aries and Mercury going retrograde, and communication got jumbled up and people didn't have their listening ears on, and that created arguments and disagreements. But what I can say in a positive way out of that, whatever transpired over your long weekend, whatever the disagreements, the arguments, the conversations, the whatevers, it was positive. It meant that it released you from the past. It might have opened up old wounds. It might have caused some friction and some arguments, but it was actually really positive, because it meant that we cleared a lot of old stuff out of the road. Things that we no longer need in our lives are now gone. So if you can look at it in that way, then we can move on to things more positive. So I'm just going to quickly show you the back of the Secrets of Tarot card. It's a blue card, and it actually has an oldie worldy card feel. It's sort of, they've given the card a different treatment. They've given it a facelift. It's oldie worldy with an oldie worldy type font. The actual meanings and the actual pictures on the card are exactly the same. They just have a different finish. So for those of you that like my favourite set, which is Simply Tarot, which is where it began, I understand that. But for a lot of our new people that are just heading into the world of tarot, they're finding that they're very drawn to the Secrets of Tarot. So again, it's a very personal choice. So to help celebrate, if you head to my website, amandahallpsychic.com.au, you'll find when you've made a purchase of whatever it might be, if you want to type in the word in capital letters radio at the coupon box at the checkout, you will find you'll get a nice little surprise there of a discount. That's a universal discount. It goes 12 months of the year. There's no time limit on it. There's no hurry. It's just there for the regular viewers of the show as my little way of saying thank you. So before we sort of move on to what's actually happening around the universe at the moment, I'd like to make this week a special feature about tarot and talk to you a little bit about the history of tarot and how it came to be and why we work with tarot. Tarot, in my belief system, you know, the history goes back to the 14th century. Many countries around the world have laid claim to being the ones that founded or created tarot. So I suppose that comes back to a personal belief system of who you want to believe. I firmly believe that it started way back with the Romany Gypsies, and it's something that I've always felt very dear in my heart and in my soul. And I may be proved wrong, but that's my belief system. So some of the little tips and things that people sort of talk about with tarot over the time, and a lot of people, when I used to teach weekly classes, used to say to me, oh, you know, I've heard so many things about what I should and shouldn't do with my tarot cards. And number one that I heard was that you can't allow anyone else to touch your cards. And my answer to that is your personal choice. If you don't want someone else to touch your cards, that's your personal decision. There is no hard and fast rules for this. When I see clients privately, which doesn't happen very often these days due to work schedules, most of my work is done over the telephone. The first thing I used to do was ask my client to shuffle the cards so that they'd put their energy, their feel into the cards, because the reading was about them, it's not about me. So I suppose the next question you're going to ask me is, how does that work when you're working remotely for someone on the telephone? Well, I suppose over my many, many years of being in this industry, I've learnt to be able to flick a switch and go into work mode, and again flick another switch and tune in to my client that is on the phone. I always ask their first name, and I always ask, you know, if there's somebody that they want to know about, a particular loved one, for that person's first name too. That enables me to flick that switch into their energy so that I can then transfer that energy into the cards as I'm shuffling it for them. It's like anything. Practice makes perfect. We're not all born with this perfect, amazing, magical skill that we can turn it on and master it in the first day or the first week. It is something that you do need to keep practicing. It's like a muscle. It gets weak if you don't use it, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So having said that, why would we start to work with tarot? What's the reasons why? The first reason would be you need to be drawn to tarot. Don't go to something just because everyone else is. Go to what you're drawn to. I've never been really drawn to numerology. I tried, I looked at it, I have immense respect for it, but it's not natural to me. Where tarot and astrology were natural to me, I felt comfortable there. I felt like I was at home. And I feel that that's the secret. And over my extensive career, I've seen many people that have a list as long as your arm of their skills of everything that they can do and they can't do. And I think that's terrific for them. My suggested course is pick one or two things and become a master. Don't have 94,000 different skills that you can do and be a master at nothing. It's entirely up to you how you choose to work. I like to work with tarot because they are picture cards. And I know there's a lot of controversy out there. If you're a true psychic, you don't need any tools. Well, that's probably true. But in my experience, I believe that we all need something as a point of focus. And tarot's always been my point of focus. Yes, I get, you know, information for the clients that we work with here on A1R Psychic Radio, where I don't actually throw any cards out. I just tune into them, to their question, and you've seen me on the show over the last 12 months or so, where I just answer them. I give them what I'm getting. And that comes with many, many years of experience and practice and being able to flick a switch, as I said. But for most of us that are learning, we need a point of focus. And this is where I believe tarot becomes very important, because it gives us that opportunity. When you purchase a kit like Secrets of Tarot, where it does have actual exercises and spreads for you to work with, and has you working with the cards from week or lesson number 1 in the book, you start to get a feel for the cards. And that's really very important, because there's no point in having somebody, reading a book and they're lecturing you all the way through the book and you think, just get to the good bit. I want to learn how to work with the cards. So that's why I designed the way I did Secrets of Tarot and Simply Tarot all those years ago, that it was something that from the very first lesson you have hands-on experience with working with the cards, because that's really, really important. So the cards are divided into 2 sets. There's 78 cards in all. We have what's known as the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana. And I hear you say, well, what on earth is the difference between that? Well, the major arcana are the first 22 cards in the deck. They're like the noun in the sentence. They're the proper bit. They're the bit that's solid, that's rock solid. It's where we build a story around that. It's like this is the definite. Then the minor arcana are like the adjectives that fill in the gaps around it and extend the story out. So it's really important when we start working with tarot or any other form that we bring in a practice of some sort of protection, which might be a topic to talk about on another show. We need to protect ourselves before we work with anything on a psychic level. And we need to make sure that our mind is as clear as it can possibly be. And we usually only consult tools of the trade like this when we've got a problem or an issue or something's troubling us. So it's hard then to try and sort of clear your mind. I appreciate that. But that's where protection and clearing your mind and a little prayer or meditation or whatever can help us achieve that. So I suggest that you write down what cards that you get in your reading so that you're able to follow how the reading sort of grows and transpires and elaborates or gives you further information as you use more layouts. Now, it's interesting that the cards do progress. They do take things from the end of a reading all the way down through to the current and then into the past situation. So tarot cards is something that I think is easy to work with, particularly if you're working with one of my decks where it has a little printed message on the bottom, that gives you the starting point. It gives you something to work with, a message to work with off the card to make it so much easier. Tarot is something that I've affectionately worked with for over 40 years. It's something that I don't leave home without them. I don't even go on a trip these days without my trusty tarot cards somewhere, because I just never know when I'm going to need them. And I suppose that's become part of my handbag, my purse, if you want to put it that way. There's always a set of tarot cards in there, but that's just my personal preference. I want to share with you, though, that reading the tarot is not in any way negative or destructive, or does it contravene what you may have learnt through your times in attending church services and following your religion. I do believe that we are prophets of God. I do believe that we have a message to share and we bring hope to people. Tarot should not be about replacing going to a doctor, making a decision. What it's there for is a guide. It's to help you understand the energies and the possibilities that surround you. We always have free will and our own decision is always final. We don't have to be influenced or allow someone else to influence our final decision. We all have free will, so therefore the tarot cards are only used as a guide. So the importance of doing a reading, if you're learning on a daily basis, is to help you become more familiar with them. The more you learn to work with the cards, the more the cards start to talk to you, and the more times you see the same repetitive patterns or the same amount of cards coming out in similar positions day after day after day. So that's your confirmation of the message that the cards are sharing with you, that look, here we are again in the same cards, in the same spots. There may be one or two changes, but the basic message is still the same. So it's always important to have an open mind, to make sure that you don't use your tarot cards when you've had any form of substance or any alcohol, please. Your mind must be very, very clear. It can't be, it's not the sort of thing that you do as a bit of a party trick when you've had a couple of glasses of champagne or wine or something at a party. Please don't do that. That's not showing tarot or any other medium the respect that it deserves as far as tools in our toolkit. You know, we don't take our car to the motor mechanic down the street and expect him to be half stung with alcohol and do a good job of fixing our car. So the same respect should be shown for the tarot cards. So that takes me on to my candle of the week. And the candle of the week this week, obviously, is going to be Secrets of Tarot. This is our extra large candle, which I suggest that you can burn while you're doing readings for yourself with your lovely tarot cards. And it's something that I always work with. I've worked with candles all my career. Not necessarily my own candles until the last couple of years, but I've always had candles going. I feel that it gives a protection. It also clears out the energy of the space that I'm going to be working with. And I suppose being a fire sign, I like the fire of the actual candle as well. So for those of you that might be travelling, of course, we have our little mini travel kit here with the 3 mini Secrets of Tarot card candles in there for you. So you get about 15 hours out of each one of these little mini travel ones and about 100 hours out of your extra large. So that sort of just gives you a little bit of an understanding of how to work with your cards, how to work with, your candle, to work with that to enhance your psychic ability. So we're now going to have a little quick trip around the universe before we take our first caller. And interestingly enough, this week, I want to talk about Saturn in Capricorn. Now, Saturn's been in Capricorn now for a few months. Saturn will stay there for approximately 30 months. Now, what Saturn is Saturn's the planet of discipline, restriction. It's the father figure in astrology. It's the real serious thing. It's what rules things like government, big business, anything that's official in our lives. So why does this affect us as a globe at the moment? When it's in Capricorn, it's sort of saying to us we all need to be really, really focused on the really important, big, universal issues that are affecting us as a globe. So it's no surprise that we're seeing the world come together now, particularly over those poisonings that happened with those spies in England, where everybody sort of pulled their Russian consulates out of, political places and sending them home. And some people sort of might say, okay, well, that was a knee-jerk reaction. No, it's not. We need to show Russia, as collectively as a globe, we're not going to put up with this sort of behaviour and it's unacceptable, and this is the consequences for your actions. That's just one example I can use. But also during the time of Saturn in Capricorn, we're going to see that there's going to be some stabilisation, I think, of political areas around the world. Now, look, it doesn't matter what country you're in or who you speak to. Locally, everybody's unhappy with the way politics is going in their own backyard. And here in Australia, we're no different to you guys in the US of A or in England or wherever you are around this amazing globe. Everybody's dissatisfied. But what everybody has to understand is that to have change in our lives, in our own politics, in our own countries, we have to, as a nation, get cranky first. We have to get our angry hat on. We have to come out and have our voices heard. Now, that wouldn't be happening if we had politicians in there that we liked or we thought was doing a good job. So therefore, we wouldn't achieve the changes that need to come in. And this is what Saturn's role here is to give us a stability factor to say, okay, great, if you're not happy with the way this country's heading, then stand up and be counted. Get your voice out there. Start to sort of rally the troops. Start to look at this in a very dynamic, positive, grown-up way. How can we, as one individual, get some other people involved in a cause and start to join together the solidarity of people power? And that's what it's about. So we have this power to sort of get our voice heard in the next 18 months to 2 years. So please don't waste this time. Saturn also in Capricorn hopefully should bring about some stabilisation to monetary policy. Now, by that I mean it's not going to stop the stock market crashing. It's not going to stop you spending too much money. What it's asking for each and every one of us to do is look at how we handle our cash flow, how we handle our own personal spending, and is there something there that we can do in a better way? Is it time to revamp and look at where we've got our money going out on a weekly or a monthly basis? Can we get a better phone deal? Can we do more with our money instead of wasting it? So it's our responsibility to start looking at our personal finances and where things are heading. So next week we're going to be looking at our first 4-part series of the houses in astrology. We're now going to take Diana in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Are you there, Diana?
Yes.
How can I help you tonight, sweetie? Do you have a question for me?
Oh, first of all, thank you for letting me be on your show. I was just wanting to know how do I get into my spirituality? That out there, sorry.
Diana, that's a really good question because for each person it's different. What I usually suggest to people is go to something that you're drawn to. Whether that's attending a spiritualist church, whether it's learning tarot, numerology, astrology, reading palms, tea leaves, whatever. Just go to whatever you're the most drawn to. Some people are drawn to angels. Other people are drawn to the numbers because it's something that they like to work with. That's the best way we can open ourselves up on a spiritual level, is head towards the direction we're being naturally drawn to. There's no hard and fast rules at how fast or how slow it's going to happen. It's a personal thing. It's how much time and effort are you going to put into it. And most of the time, we've already had some sort of spiritual or psychic connection anyway. You know, there's been times when just before the phone rings, you'd be thinking of your best girlfriend, and the next thing she's on the telephone or she's at the front door. You know, they're psychic or spiritual connections. So that's just learning to work with that. And learning to sort of say to yourself, it's okay not to know all the answers. None of us have all the answers, sweetie. None of us. No matter how much you become spiritually evolved, you never have all the answers. We still have certain amounts of things that take us by surprise. So is there an area that you're naturally drawn to?
Yes. I have seen people. I've seen something else. I don't know what it was, but I'm not scared. They don't bother me. I don't do it all the time, but I know something's there, and I need to learn to tap into that, because now my grandson he just turned 4. He is wise beyond his years and knows way too much. You know, it's crazy.
No,
I want to help him to understand.
Okay, right. Let's go back to your grandson first. A lot of 4-year-olds, children between the ages of 4 and 7, know no boundaries when it comes to this. They can see spirit, they can see passed over relatives from the other side as if they're sitting there like you and I are in the flesh. So please don't discourage that. Just try and answer his questions the best way you can. By the time they get to about 7, the rational part of their mind starts to kick in, and they start to question, well, hang on a minute, nobody else can see it, so therefore I can't. So this is why I think it's a natural progression that once children turn about 7, that they go down a different path. Sometimes it kicks back in again around puberty, around 14 years of age. Sometimes it doesn't kick back until much later in our lives. If you're starting to see things or see people that have passed over, that's what we term as mediumistic sort of work. My suggestion would be, I would suggest that you look at joining sort of John Edwards Evolve Club, which will cost you around about $100 a year, and that's a really good place to start. John Edwards, amazing medium from your country, and I had the good pleasure of meeting him last year, and I've been a big fan of his work for many, many years. But I think if you join that, at least that's a beginning point, because there's all like-minded souls there. It's a nice little family, and then you'll learn so much from that then you can go on to other areas. He does have a course on Hay House called Project You, is another really good starting point as well. I've just finished that course with John. I thoroughly recommend it to anybody that might want to develop their spirituality.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, why do people
I was just going to say, there are a couple of suggestions for you. You need somewhere to start.
Yes, that's. I just didn't want to just find just anybody and not get on the right path
No. That's why I'm suggesting join John Edward at the Evolve website, which is under $100 US for the year. And that's a good starting point, because there's a social network there of people in there. I'm a member. Lots of professionals are members as well. But John has a little internet show each week that you can watch. He's now got a Facebook page where we can all join in and have conversations and things like that. So you'll start to gather lots of information there. So that's good. Okay. Now, we're going to go on to our next caller. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I think it's really important for you, if you sort of look at that, Diana, and work with that, because that will give you that starting point that you needed to be able to focus and get a point of, this is a good starting point in a safe little group where nobody's going to judge me, and you'll find that the energy that comes out of that group is very pure, and it's a nice starting point. And John's been around for a very, very long time, over 30 years. And with the course Project You, he takes you through all different areas of spirituality. He teaches you things like protection. He looks at many different forms of tools like tarot and numerology and astrology, gives you affirmations, explains a lot of things in that course, and you can do it at your own pace. And that was the one good thing about it. They suggest it's a 90-day course. It took me 11 months with my busy schedule. But I purposely did the course because, number one, I wanted to be able to understand what he was teaching the masses. And just also it's always nice to get confirmation that what I've always worked with and believed in all my working career, that we had a lot of things in similar that I could say, tick, 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 yes, that's the way I've always worked. And I like to be able to recommend something to people like you, Diana, that are starting out in a safe environment, because there's so many places you could go and you just don't know where to go. You don't know what to look at and what to do next. And the most important thing I can share with you is if it feels right, do it. If it doesn't feel right, walk away from it. Doesn't matter what it is. If you get that uncomfortable feeling in the pit of your tummy, walk away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It's not right for you. It's not right for you. So you don't question that. That also helps build your psychic powers by listening to that reaction in your tummy that says this feels right or that doesn't feel right. That helps build it. And it's something that we need to work with every single day. It's not something that you can sort of say, oh, well, I'll do it this week and have 3 months off. It doesn't work that way. Once you start on this journey, it becomes part of your life. It becomes automatic, like brushing your teeth. And that's really...
It's actually saved my life a few times by listening.
Oh, absolutely. It has for most people, Diana, and that's why it's so important. And particularly as the world is moving so fast, I think more and more and more of us need something that we can understand things better with, and this is what it's about. So it's John Edward with no S.net is his website, and that's where you can join the Evolve group. But I know that you'll get an awful lot out of it. I've been a member of Evolve now for about 4 years, and I just love being part of the group. It's nice to have people that you can have a conversation with, and, you know, people share lots of things there. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
And enjoy your grandson. It's wonderful that we've got such a young person that's really not frightened to embrace his spirituality. That's amazing.
Yes, I'm sure that he's going to go on to help lots of people. I really do.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's a very, very old soul, your grandson, and it's nice to see that loving energy coming through. Yes, he does. And he comes out with some real pearls of wisdom, doesn't he? Some statements that you think, where did that come from?
He does. That's just crazy. You just said that. He definitely does.
Yeah, but he's a clever young man. Well, it's lovely to speak with you, Diana. I wish you all the best with your journey on your spirituality, and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you so much.
And that brings us to the end of our show. I hope you're having an awesome week wherever you are. Next week we'll be talking about our first part series of the houses in astrology, so I hope you can join me then. We'll have our candle of the week. We'll also have our Simply Tarot card of the week. So please hold everybody in your thoughts and prayers for the people that have been connected with the YouTube shooting. There's nothing more we can say except hold them in our prayers, and have a great week. Bye for now.